My own son sent me a birthday whiskey, a dazzling bottle, hiding poison meant to kill me. A gut-wrenching betrayal from the child I raised, who's not even my blood. If this dark family secret has you reeling, join me, like to stand for truth. Share this gripping tale with your friends and subscribe to walk this journey with me. Now let's step back to the day that gift arrived, when my quiet life turned into a desperate fight for survival. 68 years on this earth, and let me tell you, birthdays ain't what they used to be. I'm Henry Dalton, just an old guy with a bum ticker scraping by alone in a creaky house in a small Missouri town. 3 years ago, my world went silent when Margaret, my wife, passed. Every morning now, I shuffle to the kitchen, brew coffee that's too bitter, and listen to the clock tick like it's mocking me. The porch swing out front creaks in the October breeze, a sound that hits harder than it should, reminding me of nights when Margaret and I would sit there, her hand in mine, watching fireflies light up the dark. Those days are long gone, and I thought I'd made my peace with it. But boy, was I wrong. This birthday I woke up expecting zilch. No calls, no cards, just another day. Maybe I'd fix that loose fence post or flip through the old photo album, the one with Margaret laughing and Marcus as a kid with his gap-toothed grin. I taught that boy to ride a bike right in the driveway, holding the seat steady until he got it. Back then, it was me, Margaret, Marcus, a real family. But life got messy. I sold part of Margaret's family farm to cover medical bills after my heart attack, and Marcus didn't take it well. He stopped showing up for Sunday dinners, skipped Thanksgiving, then Christmas. 3 years of radio silence, not a peep. I told myself he was busy or hurt, but deep down I knew we'd lost something I couldn't fix. So when the mail truck rumbled up that morning, I didn't think twice. Probably a bill or some junk flyer promising 0% financing on a car I don't need. But there it was, a package no bigger than a shoebox wrapped in plain brown paper. No return address, just my name in blue ink. I stood on the porch, wind biting my knuckles, and something in my gut twisted. That handwriting, it was Marcus's. My boy, after all this time. The card inside was plain, happy birthday. No dad, no name at the bottom, like he couldn't bring himself to say more. I held it, staring at those words, and for a split second I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was his way of reaching out, of bridging the gap. Why now, Marcus? After all this silence, what are you playing at? Inside was a bottle of whiskey, the fancy kind you'd think twice about cracking open. Deep green label, gold lettering catching the morning light, like it was alive, holding fire in the glass. I ran my thumb over the wax seal, smooth as a promise, and for a moment, I could almost taste that slow burn. Used to be my go-to, a single glass after fixing fences or clearing gutters. Margaret would pour one too, and we'd swing on the porch, letting crickets fill the quiet. But that was before the doc laid out the rules: no booze if I wanted to see 70. Marcus was right there in the hospital when I got that news, staring at his phone, like it was more interesting than his old man fighting for his life. He knew I couldn't drink. So why send this? I set the bottle on the kitchen table, light slicing through it, in gold and shadow. I kept staring, half expecting it to spill some secret. Part of me wanted to call him, but the number I had was old, probably dead. Instead, I pulled the fireproof box from the hall closet, Margaret's idea, where we stashed the deed, her rose gold ring I can't let go of, and papers that mean more than they should. I jotted it down: package received October 19th, 2025. Marcus's handwriting, no return. Writing it out steadies me, always has. It's like nailing down a loose board before it trips you. But then, digging for a pen, my fingers hit something unexpected. A folded letter, yellowed edges in Margaret's neat cursive. My heart caught. It was one she wrote years back when Marcus was little, tucked away like she'd hidden it on purpose. I read it standing there, clock ticking louder than ever. Words about family lasting forever, no matter the secrets that come to light. Secrets. What secrets? It hit me like a punch. Why was this letter in the box with the whiskey? Did Marcus slip it in? I thought I knew my boy, thought the silence was just hurt feelings. But now, staring at that bottle and her words, I wasn't so sure. This felt like the start of some plot twist in my own life, and I had no idea how dark it was about to get. That letter from Margaret shook me more than I let on. I sat there at the table bottle gleaming under the kitchen light, and turned it over in my mind. Why would Marcus slip it in there? Was he trying to stir up old feelings? Or was this his messed-up way of saying sorry? I figured I'd never know unless I asked. But calling him felt like opening a door. I wasn't ready to walk through. And honestly, what was I going to do with a bottle of whiskey I couldn't drink? It'd just sit there gathering dust, mocking me every time I passed by. That's when Thomas Hale came to mind. He's Marcus's father-in-law, the kind of guy who shows up with tools before you even know you need help. 2 summers back, after a storm ripped half the shingles off my roof, he was up on a ladder at dawn, hammer in hand, no questions asked. If anyone deserved something nice, it was him. I thought maybe this gift from Marcus could do some good after all. Spread a little joy, instead of sitting here stirring up ghosts. So I buckled the bottle into the passenger seat of my old Chevy, old habit, from hauling fragile stuff on bumpy county roads, and drove out to Thomas's place. October fields were browning, a faint smell of smoke in the air. His clapboard house glowed in the dusk porch, wrapping around like a postcard. Thomas opened the door. Before I could knock, flannel shirt dusted with sawdust, like he'd just stepped away from a project. "Henry, what's this?" he said, eyes lighting on the bottle. I handed it over. "From Marcus. Figured you'd get more use out of it than me." His brows lifted. "Marcus sent this. That's unexpected." He set it on the counter, turning it to read the label. "Top-shelf stuff, Henry. The kind you save for a special night." We talked for a bit like old times. I mentioned the package showing up out of the blue, and Thomas nodded, a shadow crossing his face. "Haven't heard from him in months. Sophia says he's in deep with some gambling mess. Breaking her heart. And little Alex's, too. That boy's only 6, doesn't understand why his dad's always gone." I felt a pang at that. Alex, my grandson, the one bright spot in this mess. Marcus had walked out on them last year, leaving Sophia to raise the kid alone. Thomas sighed, rubbing his chin. "I keep hoping he'll turn it around, but, well, you know how it is." I did know, too well. We chatted about the weather turning cold, how the Cardinals might make a run next season, anything to dodge the heavy stuff. Thomas grinned when I left, holding up the bottle. "Thanks, Henry. This calls for a toast sometime. Take care now." Driving home, I felt a little lighter, like maybe this gift had found the right hands. I thought about calling Sophia to check on Alex, but didn't want to stir up trouble. The sun dipped low, painting the sky amber. I made a simple dinner pot roast with carrots, the house smelling good, but feeling empty. I ate alone, the clock ticking steady as ever. I figured that was it for the day, a quiet birthday with a surprise that didn't turn out so bad. But then, everything changed real quick in a way I never saw coming. The phone rang early next morning, jolting me from a restless sleep. It was Linda Thomas's wife, her voice tight and shaky. "Henry Thomas collapsed last night after a drink from that bottle. Doctors say it might be poisoning." They're running tests, but he's not doing good. My coffee went cold in my hand. Poisoning Thomas was fine when I left him strong as an ox, laughing about the Cardinals. I rushed to St. Luke's, the drive a blur. There he was in the ICU, face gray as ash tubes snaking from his arms' monitors, screaming a rhythm I knew too well. Linda gripped my arm, eyes red. He poured us a glass after dinner, said it was the smoothest he'd ever tasted. Then this morning he couldn't stand clutching his chest like something was tearing him apart. If it wasn't for that bottle, guilt slammed into me like a truck. Did I just hand death to my friend Thomas, the guy who'd climbed my roof without a second thought, now fighting for his life because of me? I thought back to Margaret's accident, how Marcus's drunk driving took her, and he'd blamed me for not stopping him. Was this some kind of echo? No, that didn't make sense. But doubt crept in cold and sharp. What I didn't expect was how deep this rabbit hole would go. I leaned against the hospital wall, my heart pounding too hard, and made a decision. I couldn't just stand there feeling sorry. I headed home, grabbed a mason jar, and poured a sample of the leftover whiskey I'd kept without thinking. I scribbled it in the fireproof box, Thomas in hospital, possible poisoning sample taken. If something was wrong with that whiskey, I was going to find out. What I didn't see coming was the phone ringing that evening. It was Marcus. "Dad," he said, voice smooth, like no time had passed. "You get my gift." My hand tightened on the receiver. "Yeah, gave it to Thomas." Silence, then his tone shifted sharp and cold. "You what? Too bad for Thomas, huh? Did you try it yet?" Try it? He knew I couldn't. Then came a faint laugh like he'd won something before the line went dead. I stared at the phone, mind racing. Why did he care if I'd drunk it? Why that laugh? It felt like he'd been hoping I would. That laugh from Marcus before he hung up, it stuck with me like a bad dream. I stood there in the kitchen, phone still in my hand, replaying it over and over. Too bad for Thomas, huh? What kind of son says that about his own father-in-law? And that edge in his voice when he asked if I'd tried the whiskey. It didn't sit right, like he was fishing for something, hoping I'd say yes. I paced the floor, my mind racing faster than my old heart could keep up. I thought about Thomas lying in that hospital bed, tubes everywhere because of a bottle I'd handed him. Did Marcus know this would happen? Nah, that couldn't be. But the doubt gnawed at me, sharp as a knife. I knew I couldn't just sit on it. If that whiskey was bad, I needed proof. So I grabbed the mason jar sample I'd taken earlier and dialed up Victor, an old buddy from my army days, who runs a small vet lab on the edge of town. Victor picked up on the second ring, his voice gravelly as ever. "Henry, what's got you calling this late?" I told him about the bottle Thomas in the hospital and how I needed him to test this sample quiet, like no fuss. He didn't ask a million questions, just sighed and said, "Bring it over. I owe you one from that time you pulled my truck out of the snow ditch last winter." I drove out there in the dark, the jar wrapped in a towel on the seat beside me. His lab's nothing fancy, a converted barn with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, shelves full of test tubes and animal meds. Victor met me at the door in his lab coat, over a sweatshirt smelling like disinfectant and hay. We sat at his workbench while he ran the tests, me nursing a cup of his lousy instant coffee. "This ain't gonna be quick," he warned, but I waited anyway. What else was I gonna do? An hour later, he looked up from his microscope, face grim. "Henry, you're not gonna like this. There's white snake root in here, extracted, concentrated. Enough to stop a heart like yours or Thomas's cold. It's poison, plain and simple." White snake root. I'd heard of it from farm stories, the stuff that kills cattle if they graze on it. in whiskey. That didn't happen by accident. Victor explained how its rare needs careful processing to blend without changing the taste. Someone knew what they were doing, he said. I felt the room spin a little. If I'd drunk it, but I hadn't. Thomas had. I thanked Victor, promised to keep him in the loop, and drove home with my head full of questions. Who would do this, and why send it to me? First thing the next morning, I headed back to the hospital. Thomas was still in ICU, hooked up to machines that beeped like they were arguing with each other. Linda let me in, her eyes puffy from no sleep. He's in a coma, Henry. The doctors say the toxin hit his heart hard, might be permanent damage if he pulls through. I sat by his bed, grasping his hand rough from years of work. Thomas, the guy who'd always been there for me, now fighting because of my damn gift. I whispered an apology, feeling like a fool. I thought it was just whiskey, I muttered to Linda. She patted my shoulder. We all did, but who would tamper with it? That question hung in the air, heavy as lead. I couldn't shake the image of Marcus's laugh on the phone. Was he capable of this? My own son? It got me thinking back to how things fell apart with him. After Margaret died, I sold off part of the farm to pay her medical bills, the ones that piled up from her treatments. But I kept the bulk of it, worth a couple million, now planning to leave it to Alex, my grandson. Marcus had demanded his share early, said he needed it for investments, but I knew better. It was gambling debts eating him alive. Dad, you owe me, he'd said last time we spoke, voice hard. I refused, told him to clean up his act for Sophia and the kid. He stormed out, and that was it. 3 years gone. I figured he'd come around eventually. But now, with Thomas in a coma and that poison in the bottle, I wondered if his anger had turned darker. If he blamed me for everything, Margaret's death, his messes, and saw this as payback. The thought cut deep like a knife twisting. How could the boy I raised, the one who saved me during my heart attack by calling 911, turn into someone who'd do this? Or was I just paranoid, seeing shadows where there weren't any blood, or not? He was my son. Or so I thought. I couldn't let it eat me up. Sitting there in the hospital, watching Thomas fight, I knew I had to do something. So I pulled out my phone and called Detective Harlan Reyes, a local cop I'd met through community stuff. Henry, what's going on? He asked. I laid it out, the bottle, Thomas, the sample. He didn't laugh it off. Bring everything in. We'll look into it. Back home, I gathered the notes from the fireproof box, adding detailed sample to Victor, results positive for poison, Thomas, in coma. Writing it down helped organize the chaos in my head, like piecing together a puzzle under pressure. It was my way of pushing back, proving I wasn't just some old man waiting for the end. But just as I was locking the box away, something caught my eye outside the window, a shadow moving in the dusk. I froze. There he was, Marcus, standing across the street, eyes locked on mine, cold as ice, before he turned and melted into the shadows. My heart hammered. Was he checking on me, or making sure the job was done? I double-checked the locks, but sleep didn't come easy that night. The next morning, digging through the trash for an old receipt, I found something that made my blood run cold. A small vial, white powder dusted inside with a faint label WSR, white snake root, but I hadn't put it there. Someone had been in my house, and the only one with a reason to cover tracks was Marcus. What was he hiding, and how far would he go to keep it buried? That vial in the trash, it hit me like a sucker punch. I stood there in the kitchen staring at the thing in my hand, the faint WSR label mocking me. White snake root. The same poison Victor just found in the whiskey. How did it get in my trash? I hadn't thrown it away. Someone had been in my house rooting around while I was out. And the only one with a motive to plant or steal something like that was Marcus. My mind jumped back to that shadow outside the window last night, his eyes locking on mine before he slipped away. Was he checking if the poison had done its job, or covering his tracks? I felt a chill run down my spine, the kind that makes an old man like me question every creak in the house. I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. I grabbed my phone and dialed Harlan again. "It's Henry. That vial I mentioned. It's in my trash now, but it wasn't before. And it's labeled with the poison." He didn't hesitate. "Sit tight. I'm coming over." Harlan showed up within the hour, his unmarked car pulling up quiet, like he didn't want to spook the neighbors. He's a solid guy, mid-50s, with sharp eyes, and a tie that's seen better days. We sat at the kitchen table, the October light slanting through the window in pale streaks, making the room feel colder than it was. He examined the vial, carefully gloved hands turning it under the light. "This looks like residue from the extract," he said. "And you say it wasn't here before?" I nodded, showing him the trash bag twisted the wrong way, like someone had rummaged and put it back hasty. Harlan checked the doors, next spotting fresh scratches on the lock plate, the kind from a copied key that doesn't fit perfect. "Someone had access," he muttered. "You mentioned Marcus had your keys after your heart attack." "Yeah, he did grabbed them to bring me stuff from home while I was laid up. Never thought twice about it. But now, it felt like another piece falling into place." Harlan bagged the vial. "We'll test for prints. If it's him, this ties right back to the whiskey." While Harlan was there, my phone buzzed a call from a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was local. I put it on speaker at his nod. It was Marcus. "Dad," he started casual as if we talked every day. "Heard about Thomas. Scary stuff." I gripped the table edge. "Yeah, it is. He's in a coma because of that bottle." Silence, then a low chuckle that made my blood boil. "Coma too bad. Guess he couldn't handle his liquor. You sure you didn't try it yourself?" His voice had that calculating edge, like he was testing me. Harlan motioned to keep him talking. "Why do you care if I drank it?" Marcus paused, then his tone hardened. "Just curious. Hey, while we're chatting, you thought about that inheritance farm's worth a fortune now. I could use my share to sort some things." Gambling debts, he meant. "No," I said flat. "It's for Alex." Another laugh, colder. "Suit yourself. But family's gotta stick together, right?" The line went dead. Harlan nodded. "Got it recorded. That's motive right there, money and resentment." That call lit a fire in me. I sat there after Harlan left, staring at the empty spot where the vial had been. How could Marcus laugh about Thomas like that? The man who treated him like a son, and now he's just too bad. I felt disgust boiling up hot and bitter. My own boy seeing family as a tool to fix his messes. The gambling leaving Sophia and Alex, he'd turned cold selfish like the world owed him. Was this my son, or a stranger wearing his face? How did I miss this darkness growing? The thought cut deep, stabbing harder with every replay of his chuckle. And me, I was done making excuses. My heart twinged sharp, but I skipped my meds that night, figuring I needed the edge to focus. No more sitting around waiting for the next shoe to drop. This betrayal hurt like hell, but I wasn't going to let it break me. I got to work that afternoon. Using old army tricks, I rigged a simple wire trap on the door's thin thread across the frame tape to hold it, the kind that snaps if someone sneaks in. Then I installed a cheap camera from the hardware store pointing at the front porch and kitchen. Nothing fancy, but it'd catch anyone sniffing around. It felt good to do something to push back against the fear creeping in. Despite the age and the heart, I could still protect myself. I thought I'd sleep better that night, but nope. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Don't let them in your house or worse will happen. It came from a burner phone untraceable, like Marcus was playing a game. I knew it was him. Public threat now, the nerve of him, like he owned me. My hands shook as I saved it, adding to the fireproof box. Who was this man I'd raised, and how much farther would he go? Just as I was turning out the lights, the phone rang again. It was Sophia. Henry, I need to talk. Marcus has jars in the garage, dried plants labeled stuff like WSR. He said it's a hobby, but... Her voice trailed off, hesitant, like she was holding back a secret. He's watching us, Henry. Who else was involved? Sophia, whose side are you on here? I asked. She paused too long. I don't know anymore. The line went quiet, leaving me wondering if she was trapped or part of it all. Sophia's call left me reeling. Her voice shaky and full of hesitation kept echoing in my head. He's watching us, Henry. Watching who? And what did she mean by not knowing whose side she was on? I paced the kitchen, the new camera's red light blinking like a warning. Those jars in the garage labeled WSR, white snake root. If Marcus was messing with that stuff, it explained the poison in the bottle. But Sophia, was she covering for him or finally breaking free? I thought about little Alex caught in the middle, and my stomach twisted. Enough was enough. I couldn't sit around waiting for Harlan to piece it together. Marcus was my son, my problem. I needed to look him in the eye, ask him straight about the vial, the poison, all of it. What I didn't expect was how that confrontation would rip open wounds I thought had scarred over long ago. I grabbed my keys before I could talk myself out of it, the fireproof box locked tight on the table behind me. The drive to Marcus's place felt longer than usual, the October dusk settling in like a blanket over the suburbs. His house was one of those cookie-cutter jobs, neutral siding, brass numbers on the door, the porch light flicking on automatic as I pulled up. Everything neat, right angles like he was trying too hard to look normal. I knocked, heart pounding harder than it should for a guy my age. The door swung open, and there he was, Marcus, in a faded Cardinals t-shirt, flashing that smile of his, the one that never quite reached his eyes. Dad, this is a surprise. Surprise my foot. His tone was too smooth, like he'd been expecting me all along. I stepped inside without waiting for an invite, the place smelling like lemon cleaner and nothing else. We need to talk, I said, cutting to the chase. About that bottle you sent. Thomas is in a coma because of it. Poison Marcus. White snake root. He didn't flinch, just leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Poison, come on, Dad.
You think I'd do that? I pulled out the vial from my pocket, the one Harlan had let me keep a photo of before bagging it. This was in my trash, after someone broke in, and your handwriting on the package, you knew I couldn't drink it. His eyes narrowed for a split second, then that laugh again, low and mocking. Broke-in vial, you're sounding paranoid, old man. Maybe it's the heart meds messing with your head. The way he brushed it off lit a fuse in me. Paranoid Thomas is fighting for his life, and you laughed when I told you on the phone. Too bad, you said. What kind of man laughs at that? He shrugged, smile fading into something colder. Thomas is just collateral. You were the one supposed to drink it, Dad. But hey, accidents happen. My blood ran cold. Collateral. Like his father-in-law was nothing. Why? For the farm, the money. He stepped closer, voice dropping.
You think you're some hero holding on to that land for Alex? It's mine. I needed to fix things, debts, whatever. You owe me, after what you did to Mom. Mom Margaret. That hit like a gut punch. And suddenly, I was back there 3 years ago. It was a rainy night, the kind where the roads turn slick as oil. Marcus had been out drinking again, drowning whatever demons he carried. He called me late, voice slurred. Dad, come get me. But I was laid up with a cold, told him to call a cab. He didn't. Drove home anyway, swerved off the road, and slammed into a tree. Margaret was in the passenger seat. She'd gone to pick him up when I wouldn't. The crash killed her instantly. Marcus walked away with scratches, but at the hospital he turned on me. You should have come, Dad. This is on you for not stopping me. Stopping him I'd tried for years, talks, rehab suggestions, but he always pushed back. That night broke us. He blamed me for not being there, for letting it happen. I thought it was grief talking. But now looking at him, I saw the truth he'd been nursing, that hate like a grudge, letting it fester into something twisted. You caused that accident, I said, voice shaking. Drunk driving. And now this poison. He laughed again, eyes hard. You took her from me first, hoarding the farm, playing hero. Now pay up, or worse comes. I felt my hands tremble, the room blurring as my heart skipped a beat. Damn ticker acting up from the stress. How could he hate me this much? The boy I'd raised, who'd saved me once by dialing 911 during my attack, now standing there like a stranger, cold and calculating. It hurt like hell, a pain sharper than any heart episode, because this was betrayal from my own flesh. Or so I thought. But I couldn't let it show. I slipped my phone from my pocket, hitting record, without him noticing the device hidden in my hand. Say it again, I pushed. You meant for me to drink that poison. He smirked. What if I did? Family's gotta stick together, right? But you've always put yourself first. His words cut deep, but I kept steady, breathing slow, channeling that old army discipline to gather every word as evidence. Even with my hands shaking from rage, I held it together, proof I wasn't broken yet. As he ranted on, demanding I sign over the deed, he dropped something that stopped me cold. You think you know everything, Dad, the secrets in that family of ours, my origins. That's just the start. You'll regret digging. Origins. What the hell did that mean? I pressed, but he clammed up, smile back like a mask. Get out before I call the cops on you. I left, heart racing, but with the recording safe in my pocket. Driving home, I replayed his words in my head. Secrets about his origins. Regret digging. It felt like a threat, like he knew something that could shatter me. What had Margaret hidden all those years, and how much would it cost me to find out? Marcus's words kept rattling around in my head on the drive home. The secrets in that family of ours, my origins, that's just the start. You'll regret digging. Regret. What did he mean by origins? Was he hinting at something about Margaret, or just trying to rattle me? I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles white, replaying the whole confrontation. His smirk, that cold laugh, when I accused him of the poison. It didn't add up. The boy I'd raised wouldn't do this. Or would he? By the time I pulled into my driveway, I was done guessing. Harlan needed to know about the recording, and if those jars Sophia mentioned were real, we had to get a look. I figured a search warrant was the next step. What I didn't expect was how fast things would spiral, and how deep the betrayal ran, not just from Marcus, but from someone closer than I thought. First thing the next morning, I met Harlan at the station with the recording. He listened to it twice, his face hardening. This is Gold Henry. Motive threats enough for a judge to sign off on a warrant for his place. By afternoon, it was done. Harlan rounded up a couple of officers and we headed to Marcus's house. Sophia had texted me earlier, her words cryptic, "He's not home, be careful." The neighborhood was quiet, kids playing in yards, but my stomach was in knots. Harlan knocked, no answer. They went in with the key from Sophia. She'd slipped it to me that morning, her hands shaking. The garage was our target, and what we found there turned my blood to ice. It was organized like everything else in his life, tools lined up, shelves neat. But in the back, behind some boxes, Harlan pulled out a locked cabinet. Inside, jars of dried plants labeled WSR, white snake root, and a notebook worn at the edges. He flipped it open and there it was, pages of notes, dosages scribbled in Marcus's handwriting. "Half dose for test R.C. Thomas," one entry said. Then others, full for HD-me monitor, heart failure. And dates going back months like he'd been planning this slow and steady. Harlan bagged it all. "This isn't a hobby, Henry. This is premeditated." My knees felt weak. Months he'd been experimenting, calculating how much to kill without a trace. And Thomas's initials right there proof he wasn't just after me. Harlan's phone buzzed with an update from the hospital. Thomas was waking up groggy but alive, though his heart would need monitoring for good. Relief washed over me, but it mixed with rage. Thomas pulling through was a win, but knowing Marcus had targeted him too, that made it personal. As the officers wrapped up, Sophia showed up face pale, glancing over her shoulder like she expected Marcus any second. She pulled me aside in the driveway. "Henry, I have to tell you something." Her voice cracked and she started crying, the kind of sobs that come from holding it in too long. "I helped him at first. The white snake root, it's from my garden. He said it was for a project, but then he threatened to take Alex if I didn't keep quiet." I felt a wave of sympathy crash over me. Sophia, tough as she was raising that boy alone, looked broken. "He hits me, Henry, when he's losing at the tables, or when I ask about the money. Emails on his old laptop prove it. Pictures of bruises, threats to divorce, and take Alex." She handed me a USB drive, hands trembling. I pulled her into a hug, awkward, as it was for an old guy like me. "Why now?" I asked. She wiped her eyes, seeing Thomas in the hospital, and Alex asking for his dad. "I can't let Marcus ruin more lives." It hurt hearing that, like a punch to the gut. I remembered Margaret, how she'd stand between me and Marcus when he was drunk, and raging as a teen. "Your father's been through enough," she'd say, protecting me even when I should have been the strong one. Now, here was Sophia, manipulated the same way but finding the guts to fight back. I felt helpless, like I should have seen Marcus's darkness sooner, but that just fueled my resolve. "We'll get through this," I told her. "For Alex." She nodded, but her eyes darted to the street. "He's been following me. Thinks I don't know." Harlan overheard and stepped in. "Sophia, if you're willing, that USB could seal this." She hesitated, then handed it over. "Do it, for all of us." I convinced her to stay with a friend that night away from the house. As she drove off, her phone rang Marcus. She answered on speaker at my urging. "Where are you?" he snarled. "Cops at the house. What did you tell them?" She froze, but I mouthed, "Keep driving." "I'm done, Marcus," she said, voice steadying. "It's over." He cursed, then hung up. Minutes later, her car lights flickered in the rear view. She called back, panicked. "He's tailing me, black truck just like his." My heart raced. "Turn left at the next light, head to the station. Harlan's alerting patrol." It was a tense 5 minutes, her breathing heavy over the line, but a squad car intercepted him. Marcus sped off, evading them. Harlan got the report, he'd vanished. I drove home that night with my head spinning. Sophia's confession, the notebook proof Marcus wasn't just angry. He was calculated, willing to hurt his own wife to keep control. But her turning on him, that was a game changer. I thought about Margaret again, how she'd have been proud of Sophia for standing up. Still, the fear lingered. Marcus on the loose, knowing we'd raided his garage, what would he do next? I double-checked the locks, the camera feed on my phone glowing in the dark. Little did I know his next gift was already on its way, and it would push me closer to the edge than ever. Harlan's words hung heavy after that raid. Marcus slipped the net. Stay vigilant, Henry. I drove home with Sophia's USB in my pocket, and the notebook's images burned into my brain. Months of planning dosages like some sick recipe. And Sophia finally breaking free from his grip. It gave me hope, but the empty roads felt lonelier than ever. Marcus was out there, knowing we'd hit his garage. What would he do now? I figured he'd lay low, maybe rethink his mess. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. What I didn't expect was how quick he'd strike back, turning the knife deeper with a gift that hit closer to home than anything yet. The next day started quiet, too quiet. I checked the camera feed first thing, sipping coffee that tasted like ash. Nothing stirred overnight. Harlan called with an update on Thomas. He was coming around out of the coma, but weak heart still skipping beats. Docs say he'll pull through, but it'll be a long road, Harlan said. I breathed a sigh of relief, but it caught in my throat. Thomas, that rock of a guy, reduced to this because of my son. I dialed the hospital and Linda put him on. His voice was raspy like sandpaper. Henry, heard about the poison? From Marcus. I swallowed hard. Looks that way. A pause, then anger boiled over. My own son-in-law, the bastard. After everything we've done for him, bailouts watching Alex. If I get my hands on him... He trailed off, coughing. I felt his rage mirror mine, that shared betrayal fueling us both. Rest up, Thomas. We'll get him. He chuckled weakly. Damn right. You watch your back, too. Hanging up, I felt a spark. Thomas fighting back gave me strength, but it also stirred the guilt. If I'd never given him that bottle... I was midway through breakfast when the mail truck pulled up. Another package, same brown paper, my name in that familiar scrawl. My gut dropped. The camera caught it clear as day, the delivery guy dropping it on the porch. I didn't touch it at first, just stared through the window. It looked innocent, but after the whiskey? No way. I gloved up like Harlan taught me, brought it inside. Inside was a small cake frosted white with "Happy Birthday, Old Man" piped on top. A note tucked beside it. Thought you'd like a taste. Sign the will or Alex gets the next one. Alex. My grandson. I felt the room tilt. This wasn't just about me or Thomas anymore. Marcus was threatening a 6-year-old, his own flesh and blood, to get his hands on the farm money. The selfishness of it burned hot. I pictured Alex's little face, innocent in all this, and rage mixed with horror. How low could he go? Victor came over quick when I called his truck, kicking up dust. We tested a scrape of the frosting in his portable kit, white snake root, again laced heavy. Same as before, he said, shaking his head. Concentrated. A bite could have killed a kid. A kid. Alex. The thought made my heart ache, not just from the condition, but from the sheer cruelty. Marcus, who'd bounced Alex on his knee, as a baby now using him as leverage. It echoed Margaret's death all over again that night. He drove drunk, taking her life and blaming me. His messes always hurt the ones closest. But this, threatening his son for cash. It showed how cold he'd become, seeing family as pawns in his game. I paced, reminding myself to breathe steady. The pain was sharp, like old wounds reopening, but I couldn't let it win. "We've got him now," Victor said, clapping my shoulder. "This is attempted murder, plain." "Yeah, but at what cost?" I called Harlan right away, my voice steadier than I felt. "Another package. Cake poisoned with a note threatening Alex if I don't sign over the farm." He cursed under his breath. "Send photos. I'm putting out an APB. Marcus is done running." I saved the cake sample in a Ziploc, labeled it for the box, and added the note. Even alone in that empty house, I felt a surge, predicting his next move, gathering proof. It was my way of fighting back, proving this old dog still had bite. Despite the loneliness, the fear, I was handling it. But deep down, the horror lingered. Marcus, uswording Alex, that crossed a line no father should. His motivation was clear now, desperate for money to feed his habits, willing to destroy anyone in his way. The jiangse tore at me. Part of me still saw the boy I'd raised, but the coldness in his threats. It made me wonder if that boy was ever real. As the sun dipped low, my phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. I opened it, heart pounding. "I know you're not Marcus's real father. Secrets out soon." Not his real father. What the hell? The words stared back a bombshell I didn't see coming. My hands shook as I saved it, mind reeling. Was this Marcus taunting me? Or something deeper tied to those origins he hinted at? The house felt smaller, shadows longer. What passed was about to unravel, and how much more could I take? That text from the unknown number. "I know you're not Marcus's real father. Secrets out soon." It kept me up half the night. I stared at the ceiling, the camera feed on my phone glowing in the dark, my mind spinning like a bad wheel. Not his real father. What kind of game was this? Margaret and I had raised him from day one. Diapers, Little League, the whole bit. If there was a secret, she'd have told me. Or would she? I thought about her letter in the whiskey box, those words about family, lasting no matter the secrets. Was this what she meant? The doubt chewed at me, but I pushed it down. Marcus was taunting me, trying to throw me off. With him on the run after that raid, Harlan had patrols checking the streets. But I knew better than to relax. Guys like him don't just vanish. They strike when you least expect it. What I didn't see coming was how soon and how personal he'd make it. It was around 2 a.m. when the wire trap snapped. That thin thread I'd rigged across the doorframe, it popped with a sharp twang, jolting me awake like a gunshot. My heart hammered the bum ticker, skipping beats as I fumbled for the light. The camera app on my phone lit up motion detected in the kitchen. There he was, Marcus, slipping through the back door like a shadow, a knife glinting in his hand. I froze for a second, breath caught. He'd picked the lock scratches fresh from before. Quiet as I could, I grabbed my phone and hit record on the hidden app, the one tied to the camera. Then I dialed Harlan on silent, stuffing it under the pillow. No time for panic. I crept to the bedroom door, listening as his footsteps creaked across the floor. "Dad." His voice echoed low, mocking. "I know you're up. Come out, we need to chat." I stepped into the hallway, flipping the light. There he stood in the kitchen, knife loose in his grip, that same smirk from our last face-off. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded, keeping the table between us. He laughed, a sound that chilled me deeper than the night air. "Finishing what we started. You think you're some hero saving Thomas. He was just collateral, wrong place, wrong time. The bottle was for you." Collateral Thomas. The man who'd been more family to him than I ever was lately. My stomach turned. "You poisoned it. Admit it." He shrugged, stepping closer, knife tapping the counter. "Why not? You owe me. The farm, the money, it's mine. Sign the will, or things get uglier. Ugly. He'd already crossed every line, but I kept him talking, the camera rolling silent. Why, for your debts, gambling. His eyes flashed. You took everything from me first. Mom's gone because of you. Mom, Margaret. The room spun a little as it hit me, the accident. It was that rainy night 3 years back, roads slick as grease. Marcus, drunk again, called for a ride. I was sick, told him to cab it. But Margaret went instead, always the fixer. He drove, swerved off the road, slammed into a tree. She died on impact. He walked away. At the hospital, he'd turned on me. You should have come, Dad. This is your fault. I'd carried that guilt like a stone, thinking I could have stopped it. But now, you were driving drunk, I said, voice steady, despite the shake in my hands. You killed her. He snarled. You let it happen. Always playing the hero, but you weren't there. And now with the farm, you're hoarding it for Alex like I'm nothing. That's when he dropped the bomb. You think you're my father? You're not even blood. Mom hid it to protect you or herself. Some affair, some secret she buried. Why should I be loyal to a liar like you? Not his father. The words slammed into me like a freight train. My knees buckled, vision blurring as my heart stuttered, another attack brewing from the stress. I gripped the counter, gasping. All those years, diapers, baseball games, saving for college, I'd poured my life into him. Margaret never said a word, protected me from what the betrayal crashed over me in waves sharper than any knife he held. This man I'd called son, standing there twisting the truth to justify poison threats, everything. I thought family was forever blood or not. But this, it felt like my whole life was a lie, and he was reveling in it. The pain was overwhelming, nearly dropping me to my knees, but I couldn't let him see it break me. I fumbled under the table for the hidden phone. Harlan was listening, patrol on the way. Say it again, I rasped, buying time as the camera caught every word. You poisoned the bottle because I'm not your father. He laughed, knife waving. Damn right. Mom's secret, your lie. Sign the will, or Alex pays next. Alex. That snapped something in me. Despite the chest pain radiating down my arm, I straightened. I wasn't going down without a fight. The camera was rolling. Harlan's voice whispered through the earpiece, stall him 2 minutes. I kept talking, voice steady as I could manage. You're done, Marcus. This ends now. Sirens wailed in the distance. His eyes widened, realizing the trap. He lunged, but I dodged old army reflexes, kicking in just enough. The door burst open, Harlan, and officers piling in, tackling him to the floor. They cuffed him, reading rights as he spat curses. But even pinned, he looked up at me with that smirk. Sophia betrayed me, but Plan B for Alex is already in motion. Good luck stopping it, Dad. Plan B for Alex. My heart skipped again, but the paramedics Harlan called checked me over, no full attack. Just stress. As they hauled Marcus away, I felt a mix of relief and dread. The secrets were out, the betrayal laid bare. But what was this Plan B, and how could I protect Alex from a father who'd go this far? Harlan promised to dig deeper at the station, but I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Marcus's smirk as they hauled him away, that chilling Plan B for Alex, stuck with me like a bad taste. I sat on the couch after the paramedics left, my heart still racing from the near attack. The house too quiet now that the sirens were gone. Plan B, threatening my grandson. His own kid. It was a new low, even for him. I kept replaying his bombshell, not my real son. Margaret's secret. My whole life felt like it was unraveling, but I couldn't let it pull me under. Not with Alex in danger. I thought I'd hit rock bottom when Marcus broke in with a knife, but what I didn't expect was how fast things would move to save that boy, and how much deeper the truth would cut. My phone buzzed at dawn, jarring me from a half-sleep. It was Sophia, voice frantic. Henry Marcus sent something to Alex's school, a package like the cake I overheard him on the phone last night before he came to your place. It's at the front office. My blood ran cold. Alex, only 6, caught in his father's twisted game. I called Harlan while pulling on my boots, the camera feed still blinking on my phone. "Henry, we're on it," he said, already dispatching a patrol to the school. I met him there in 20 minutes, the morning air sharp, as we raced across town. The school was a small brick building, kids' drawings taped to the windows, but the office felt like a war zone when we arrived. The principal held a small box, brown paper, same scrawl as before. "It was dropped off for Alex," she said, nervous. Harlan gloved up, opened it. Candies, brightly wrapped, innocent-looking. Victor rushed in with his portable kit confirming white snake root, just like the cake. "Enough to kill a kid in one bite," he muttered. I felt my knees buckle, but I caught myself. We'd gotten there in time. Alex was safe in his classroom, oblivious, drawing dinosaurs. I hugged him tight when they brought him out, his little arms around my neck, and for a moment I felt Margaret's strength in me. "You're okay, buddy," I whispered, but my mind screamed, "How could Marcus do this?" Harlan took me to the station, Marcus already in holding. They sat him down in a gray room, cuffs on his face, blank but eyes sharp. Harlan played the recording from my house, his voice clear, admitting the poison threatening Alex. "Why, Marcus?" I asked through the glass. He leaned forward, smirking. "You want the truth? Mom told me years ago, you're not my real dad. Some fling she had kept it quiet to save your feelings. I used it to push you to get what's mine. Why be loyal to a guy who's been lying my whole life?" My chest tightened, not just from the heart, but from the weight of it. Margaret's secret, hidden all those years. I'd raised him, loved him, bled for him, blood or not. He was my son. But to him, it was an excuse to destroy us all. I stood, voice steady despite the ache. "Blood don't make family, Marcus. Love does, and justice will." His smirk faltered just for a second, and I knew I'd hit something raw. Harlan nodded. "That's enough for the DA. He's not slipping out of this." Back at the hospital, I got a call from Thomas. His voice was stronger, though still rough. "Henry, I'm awake, getting better. Linda told me about Marcus trying to poison Alex too." That son of a bitch. His anger mirrored mine, a shared fire against the man who'd betrayed us both. "I'm testifying if it comes to that," he said. "He doesn't get to walk away." I thanked him, feeling a spark of hope. Thomas, pulling through, ready to fight, gave me strength. But the weight of Marcus's words lingered, not my son. All those years, the baseball games, the fights, the love, it felt like a house I'd built on sand. I sat in my truck outside the station, staring at the fireproof box on the seat where I'd added the candy wrapper and a note, "Alex safe, Marcus admits, not my son." The betrayal cut deeper than ever, piling on top of losing Margaret, but saving Alex brought a flicker of peace. I'd lost a son, but I'd protected my grandson. That had to mean something. Still, I couldn't shake the hollowness. Marcus using that secret to justify his crimes. It was a coward's way out, twisting love into an excuse for poison. I felt like I was teetering, my heart skipping from stress. But I wouldn't break. Not now. At the station, Sophia came in, eyes red but steady. I'm testifying too, she said. Those emails, the bruises, they're real. I was scared, but not anymore. I hugged her, proud but aching, thinking of Margaret standing up to Marcus's rages years ago. I handed Harlan the USB and my recording from the break-in, proving Sophia was coerced, not a willing accomplice. It felt good to fight for her to rebuild a piece of this broken family, even if it was just a start. You're doing right, I told her. For Alex. She nodded, tears falling, and for the first time I saw hope in her eyes. But just as we were leaving, Marcus's voice echoed from the holding room. He'd lawyered up, but as they led him out, he caught my eye and grinned. Got a surprise for you at trial, Dad. Evidence that'll flip this whole thing. Flip it. What the hell did he have up his sleeve? My stomach twisted as they took him away. Harlan clapped my shoulder. He's grasping at straws. We've got him dead to rights. But that grin stayed with me like a storm cloud on the horizon. What could Marcus possibly have to turn this around? And would it break me before this was over? Marcus's declaration from the holding room, got a surprise for you at trial, stuck with me like a burr. I drove home from the station that night, the weight of it all pressing down. Sophia was safe, with a friend, Alex, tucked in beside her, but the air felt thick with unfinished business. Harlan had Marcus locked up, the evidence stacking high, the notebook, the recordings, Sophia's emails. The DA said it was airtight, but Marcus's smirk told me he thought he had an ace up his sleeve. What could it be? Some lie to flip the script. I spent the next few days prepping with Harlan, going over my testimony, the fireproof box open on the table like an old friend. Thomas called from the hospital, sounding stronger, ready to testify if they needed him. We'll nail him, Henry, he said. I hoped so. But deep down I wondered if justice would feel as good as I imagined, or if it'd just leave another hole. What I didn't expect was how the trial would drag every secret into the light, turning pain into something almost like peace. The courtroom was nothing fancy, just a stuffy room in the county building with wooden benches that creaked under folks shifting their weight. I sat there on the first day, palms sweaty, watching the jury file in regular people, some looking bored, others curious. Marcus was brought in cuffed, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made him look smaller, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the room until they landed on me. No remorse, just that cold stare. The DA started strong, laying out the case like a road map. Harlan took the stand first, his voice steady as he presented the notebook pages of dosages, my initials HD, next to lethal amounts Thomas's too. This wasn't random, Harlan said. It was planned over months. Then the recordings, my phone capture of Marcus laughing about Thomas, demanding the farm. The jury leaned forward, whispers rippling. Sophia's emails came next, photos of bruises, threats from Marcus to take Alex if she talked. She testified, shaky but firm, tears in her eyes as she described the beatings. He said it was for us, but it was always about the money. I watched Marcus. He didn't even flinch, just stared ahead like it was someone else's story. Then it was Thomas's turn. He walked in slow, leaning on a cane, face still pale, but eyes fierce. The DA asked about the night he drank the whiskey. Smooth as silk, Thomas said, voice rough. Poured a glass for Linda and me after dinner. Woke up feeling like my chest was caving in if Henry hadn't acted fast. He trailed off, glancing at me with a nod. Then the anger boiled over. Marcus is my son-in-law. Treated him like family, bailed him out, watched his kid. And he poisons me for what money that's lower than low. The jury shifted, some shaking heads. Thomas's words hit home, that raw betrayal from someone you trusted. I felt a swell of gratitude. He was fighting back, turning his pain into strength. But watching Marcus smirk from his seat, it fueled the fire in me. My turn came after lunch. I took the stand, knees wobbly, but I kept it together. The DA walked me through it, the birthday bottle, giving it to Thomas. The hospital, the break-in. I played the recording from that night, Marcus's voice filling the room, admitting the poison was for me, threatening Alex. The jury's faces hardened. But then Marcus's lawyer, a slick guy named Caldwell, stood up for Cross. He smiled like a shark. "Mr. Dalton, isn't it true you and my client have been estranged, resentful over the farm sale?" I nodded, but he twisted it. "And this handwriting on the package, you claim it's his. But our expert says otherwise." He waved a report. "Fabricated, perhaps." "To get back at him," the jury murmured. I felt the room tilt. Was this his flip? But Harlan stood objecting. "Your Honor, we have texts from the defendant's phone threatening the grandson." The judge allowed it. Caldwell's smile faltered as Harlan showed the messages, demands for money, threats to Alex. The jury gasped. What I didn't expect was how that lat KO felt like a weight lifting even as the pain lingered. Sitting back down, satisfaction mixed with ache. Seeing Marcus mock from his seat, no regret in his eyes, sent anger surging. How could he sit there cold as ice after nearly killing us all? But the evidence piling up. It felt like sweet revenge, a win for Thomas, Sophia. Alex and Margaret's memory. I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. As the day wrapped, I took the stand again for closing words. My voice shook at first, but I steadied. I raised Marcus my whole life, loved him like blood. Even now, knowing I'm not his biological father, Margaret kept that secret to protect us. I'd do it again. But poison threats. That's not family. That's why I'm here for justice. The jury nodded, some eyes wet. I'd faced the past chosen truth over pain. It proved I could still stand tall. But as they led Marcus out, he leaned close to the bailiff, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "This isn't the end." His eyes met mine, a chill running down my spine. What did he mean? Some last trick? Harlan clapped my shoulder. "He's bluffing." But that whisper lingered a shadow over the victory. Little did I know, the real closure was just beginning. Marcus's final whisper in the courtroom. "This isn't the end," stayed with me like a splinter under the skin. I walked out of that stuffy county building with Harlan's hand on my shoulder, the jury's guilty verdict still ringing in my ears. 25 years, no parole for the first 15. Marcus was done, locked away, for trying to poison me, Thomas, and even little Alex, his own son. The evidence, his notebook, my recordings, Sophia's emails had buried him. But as I stepped into the crisp October air, I didn't feel the triumph I expected. Justice was served, sure, but it left a hollow spot where family used to be. I thought I'd feel free, like I'd won something back. What I didn't expect was how the real healing would come, not from the gavel, but from the quiet moments that followed. The judge laid it all out clean. Marcus's inheritance rights to the farm were stripped, the whole $1 million chunk set aside in a trust for Alex. Sophia hugged me tight outside the courthouse, tears streaming as she whispered, "Thank you, Henry," for Alex. Thomas was there too, cane in hand, but standing taller than he had in weeks. He'd made a full recovery, heart steady now, and he pulled me into a bear hug. "We got him, old man, and I'm helping with Alex. Family sticks together." His grin was a lifeline, a reminder that some bonds don't break. We stood there, 3 survivors of Marcus's betrayal, and for a moment it felt like we'd reclaimed something he tried to take. But driving home alone, the weight settled back in. I'd lost a son, blood or not, he was mine, and no verdict could fix that. Back at the house, I sat on the porch swing, now fixed and silent, no more creaking to haunt me. Alex was with me, his little legs swinging as he munched on a cookie Sophia had packed. The October sunset painted the sky soft orange, the breeze carrying a hint of wood smoke from down the road. I pulled him close, his head against my shoulder, and thought about Margaret. This swing was where we dreamed of grandkids, of family dinners, of a life that felt whole. Now it was just me and Alex. But maybe that was enough. "Grandpa," he said, looking up, "you gonna teach me to ride a bike like you taught Dad?" My throat tightened. I'd taught Marcus on this very driveway, holding the seat, steady cheering when he wobbled free. "Yeah, buddy," I said, voice rough. "We'll start tomorrow." It was a promise to him, to myself, to keep building something good despite the wreckage. That night I opened the fireproof box one last time, flipping through my notes, the whiskey, the vial, the recordings, every step of this nightmare. It hit me. Then I'd been writing a story all along, not just evidence, but a warning about how betrayal can tear a family apart. I decided right there to turn it into a book, something to share with others, to pass on what I'd learned, that love and justice matter more than blood, that you can rise above the worst kind of hurt. It wasn't about fame or money, just a way to make sense of the pain, to give it purpose for the next generation, for Alex. Writing it would be my way of keeping Margaret's spirit alive, her belief in family no matter the secrets. But the hollowness lingered. Marcus's coldness, his smirk, his threats using Alex as a pawn, it still burned. I was furious at his refusal to feel regret, to see what he'd thrown away. Yet saving Alex, standing with Sophia and Thomas, gave me a quiet kind of victory. Not the loud fist-pumping kind, but a steady one, like a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. I'd lost Marcus forever, and that cut deep, like losing Margaret all over again. But watching Alex giggle on that swing, I found a flicker of hope. Justice hadn't brought him back, but it had protected what was left. It was a start, a chance to rebuild something real. As I tucked Alex into bed at Sophia's that evening, a letter arrived, slipped through the mail slot. The handwriting was Marcus's, postmarked from the county jail. My hands shook as I held it, the weight of his final words in court echoing, "This isn't the end." I stood over the trash lighter in hand and burned it without opening it. Whatever he had to say, it couldn't touch us now. But as the flames curled the paper to ash, a small part of me wondered, what did he mean? Was there more to his plan, locked away with him? I pushed the thought down, locking the door behind me. The porch swing swayed gently in the breeze, and I knew I'd keep moving forward for Alex, for Margaret, for the family I still had. And so, as the flames of Marcus's letter turned to ash, I stood on that porch, Alex's laughter echoing in my heart. Justice had locked away the betrayal, but it was love for my grandson, for the family we'd rebuilt, that gave me strength to move on. Blood doesn't make family. Loyalty and truth do. I learned that the hard way, but it's a lesson I'll carry forward, sharing it through my book and every bike ride with Alex. If this story of resilience and redemption hit you, hit that like button to stand for truth, share it with your friends, and subscribe to join me in uncovering more tales of grit and heart. Thanks for walking this journey with me.